How are you, dear students? Our lesson today about understand halves and fourths. Pages number 831 and 832. Let's start with this video.
The essential understanding for this lesson is, when dividing a whole into equal pieces, the smaller the pieces, the greater the number of pieces. The larger the pieces, the fewer the number of pieces. Previously, students divided rectangles and circles into 2 or 4 equal shares, and used the terms 1/2, 1/4, or 1/4 to name one equal share of a shape. In this lesson, students compare halves and fourths of the same whole. In this problem, students are asked to divide one sandwich into halves and an identical sandwich into fourths. They are also asked to identify the larger shares. This problem is key because it prepares students for considering the relationship between the size of the pieces and the number of pieces into which a whole is divided. Listen and look for students who correctly divide the first sandwich into 2 equal shares to show halves, and divide the second sandwich into 4 equal shares to show fourths. Some of these students may then incorrectly circle the sandwich divided into fourths. They may explain that they did this because that sandwich had a larger or greater number of equal shares. Point out that the problem asks them to circle the sandwich that has larger equal shares, not the one that has a larger number of equal shares. If these students have difficulty reasoning about the size of the shares, have them cover all but one share of each sandwich. Then ask guiding questions, such as, what do you notice about the size of these shares? If you wanted the larger piece, which would you take? 1/2 of the sandwich or 1/4? Listen and look for other students who divide the sandwiches correctly. And then go on to recognize that the sandwich, divided into halves, has larger equal shares. You may extend this problem by talking with students about how the size of the pieces and the number of equal pieces are related. Listen for students who say that the sandwich with larger pieces has fewer pieces, and the sandwich with smaller pieces has more pieces. These students are developing an understanding of the inverse relationship between the size of the equal shares and the number of the shares. This understanding will help them later as they compare fractions with like denominators or with like numerators.
So, dear students, with our first question here, draw a line to divide this shape in a half. So I want to divide the shape into 2 equal shares. 2 equal shares. So here you should draw a line from the middle here to divide this shape into 2 equal shares. Second question here, shed 1/4 of this shape. So if you count our shares here or our parts here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are 4 equal parts. If you want to shed 1/4 of this shape, so you will choose just 1. So you will shed here just 1 piece. Another question, draw lines in the orange square, this one, to make smaller equal shares than are in the blue square. I want here to make smaller equal shares than are in the blue squares. In the blue square here we have 2 equal shares. So we have here halves. So I want here to draw or to make smaller equal shares than the blue square. So here we will draw 2 lines. One of them from here, from the mid line here, to divide it into 2 halves, and another one to divide this shape into fourths, like this one. So we have here 4 equal shares, it's fourths. Another question. Joanne cuts a rectangle into 2 equal shares. Then she cuts each share in half. How many equal shares are there now? And another question, what are these shares called? Use words or picture to explain. Again, Joanne cuts a rectangle into 2 equal shares. So first she divided into 2 equal shares. Then she cuts each share in half. So how many shares we have now? Excellent. We have 4 shares. So it forces. Another question, how many equal shares are there now? If you count them, you will find 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have here 4 equal shares. And another question, what are these shares called? Excellent. Fourths or quarters. So it's fourths or quarters. Another video, listen to it carefully.
Pizzas come in different sizes, but they are usually sliced in wedges through the middle. They can be sliced into different numbers of shares. These pizzas are the same size. This pizza is cut into 4 equal shares. Each share is 1/4 of the whole. This pizza is cut into 2 equal shares. Each share is 1/2 of the whole. How many fourths make one whole? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/4 make one whole. How many halves make one whole? 1, 2. 2 halves make one whole. If you were very hungry, would you want a piece of the pizza that is cut into halves or fourths? Why? You would want a piece of the pizza that is cut into halves. A half would be larger than a fourth. The pizza with fourths has smaller shares. The pizza with halves has fewer shares. If you had to share a pizza with 3 other people, would you cut the pizza into halves or fourths?
Select your answer.
You would cut the pizza into fourths. That is the only way you would have enough for everyone to have a piece.
Now you have seen how halves and fourths are related.
Excellent, dear students. With another question here, Steve wants to cut a pan of cornbread into equal shares. Will the shares be larger if he cuts the cornbread into halves or into fourths? Use the picture to help you solve. So here we have a pan of cornbread and we want to divide it. So will the shares be larger if you cut the cornbread into halves or into fourths? Excellent. The larger shares will be halves. We know now that half larger than fourth. Another question. Burik and Elisha each have a sheet of paper. Both sheets are the same size. Burik uses 1/2 of his sheet. 1/2. Alicia uses 2/4 of her sheet. 2/4. 2/4. Alicia says that they used equal amounts of paper. They used equal amounts of paper. Do you agree with her opinion? Is she correct? And explain your answer. You can draw a picture to help. Is 1/2 equal 2/4? Let's draw a shape. Here we have 2 rectangles. They are the same size here. If we divide the first shape into 2 equal shares, so we have here halves. And if we divided the second shape here into 4 equal shares, so we have fourths. So now you can see 1/2 equal 2/4. 1/2 equal 2/4. So I agree with her opinion. So Alicia is correct because 1/2 of a whole is equal to 2/4 of the same size whole. Excellent, dear students. Another question here and the last one. Joey has two circles of the same size. He cuts one into halves and the other into fourths. Which words describe how the halves compare the fourths? Is that letter A smaller and more? Or letter B smaller and fewer? Or letter C larger and more? Or letter D larger and fewer? Excellent. It will be D. Larger. It's larger and fewer. Excellent, dear students. Excellent. Don't forget our homework. Pages number 833 and 834. See you tomorrow.